That was a 1-octave chromatic scale, played starting on the open A or 5th string of the guitar. Here it is again. This time I'm going to say the note names while I play them. A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A flat, G, G flat, F, E, E flat, D, D flat, C, B, B flat, A. Here are a couple examples of melodies that use parts of the chromatic scale. That's the beginning of Rimsky-Korsakov's Flight of the Bumblebee. That's a bit of Blue Monk from Thelonious Monk. And that is Straight No Chaser, also from Thelonious Monk. My wish today is to communicate to you two things about the chromatic scale. First of all, how to physically play it on a single string like I just did. But secondly, and more importantly, how to understand why the note names are what they are, which will in turn allow you to confidently name any note anywhere on the guitar, and you'll see how that's going to work. So first of all, we're going to play a really simple version of this scale using one finger. I'm just going to use my index finger. And what I want to do is I want to count where we are on the neck to make you highly aware of just how many notes are in this scale and how they relate to one another. So we're going to start on the open A string and then go to the 1st fret, 2nd fret, just sliding your index finger up, 3rd fret, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and finally 12th fret, which is an octave above the open string. Going down 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and open. Okay, here's a slightly more complicated but potentially more efficient way to play this scale. We're going to play it in 3 positions on the guitar, the 1st, 5th, and 9th positions, so that it will look like this. Shifting to 5th position, and then shifting to 9th position. Shifting from 9th position back to 5th position, and then back to 1st position. If you've never had this explained to you, the concept of a position on the guitar is defined by which fret your index finger is at. So the reason I call this 1st position that I started in is because my index finger starts at the 1st fret. When I run out of fingers in that position, the next fret after that that's available to me is the 5th fret, so I shift my index finger there. That becomes the 5th position. Then I run out of fingers, and the next fret available to me on the way up the scale is the 9th fret, and so I'm in 9th position. It's a little trickier going down because you have to jump all the way down to the 5th fret with your index finger, but the next note that you play is with your pinky finger. That can be a little bit confusing at first, but just take it slow. You'll see how it works. Now on to how to understand why the note names are what they are in this scale. In an earlier video that I did introducing you to ear training on the guitar, we talked about the concept of whole steps and half steps. Well, you may have noticed already that this scale is simply made up of all half steps right next to one another. You just go from one note to the next possible note to the next possible note. Okay? Remembering that that can look 2 ways, either from one fret to the next or from the open string to the 1st fret, which is how we start this particular scale. In another earlier video I did on naming the open strings, we talked about the musical alphabet, which is, of course, 7 letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now, the important thing that you need to know, the important one little bit of information, or 2 bits, I suppose, is where natural half steps occur in the musical alphabet, meaning between what pairs of notes in the musical alphabet is there already a half step. You don't have to change anything for that to be the case. And the 2 places that occurs is between B and C and between E and F. That's all you have to do is remember those 2 pairs of notes, B and C and E and F. Okay? Between all the other pairs of notes, A and B, C and D, D and E, F and G and A, there's a whole step. So what do we do there? That's a bit of a dilemma. Where there's a whole step between notes of the alphabet, we have to fill in the middle note somehow. So what we do is we use what are called sharps or flats. A sharp simply raises a note by a half step in pitch, and a flat simply lowers a note by a half step in pitch. So for example, from A to B is a whole step, not a half step. So when we play the first 2 notes of that scale, we need to go from A to A sharp in order to lead us to B. And then when we're on B, we can go directly from B to C because B to C is a natural half step. Okay? Quickly, I will introduce you to the concept of enharmonics. Enharmonic just means a note that has 2 different names. Because there's a note between the notes that are a whole step apart in the musical alphabet, there's 2 ways you can name any of those notes. I can call the note between A and B A sharp, or I can call it B flat. So A sharp and B flat are essentially the same note. And I know that seems unnecessarily confusing at first, but trust me, there is quite a bit of logic as to why that occurs, and it actually simplifies musical life down the road. So again, we're going to slowly name the notes in this scale, and we're going to watch out for where those natural half steps are, B to C and E to F. So we start on A, we need to go to A sharp to transition us to B. B to C is a natural half step, so we go directly from B to C. C to C sharp to transition us to the D. D to D sharp to transition us to E. Now we're on E, we expect a half step, E to F, that's a natural half step. F, there's a whole step to G, so we need to go F, F sharp, G. Between G and A, there's a whole step, so we need to go G, G sharp, A. So I just used the sharp names ascending, which tends to be the easier thing to do when you're beginning this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the flat names going down the scale, which also tends to be the easier thing to do because you get to say the same letter of the alphabet twice in a row. A flat to G, right? Because we've got a whole step between A and G. G, G flat, F, again, a whole step between G and F, so we have to bridge that with a note in between, G, G flat, F. F to E is a natural half step. E, E flat to D to bridge between E and D. D, D flat, C. C to B is a natural half step, and then B, B flat, A. I'm going to suggest that you practice this just the way we did it there, using sharps when you're going up the scale and flats when you're going down. You can do the opposite later on if you want a greater challenge. It's a little harder on the brain to go A, B flat, B, C, D flat, D, than it is the other way around. I don't know, maybe you might find it easier to do it the other way. Experiment. I'm going to give you another big tip for learning. Don't ever take what someone's telling you completely at face value. Test it out for yourself. You may find a better way to understand it than they're sharing. So this is so cool. Now that we understand the sequence of half steps and how the naming works, we can do this on any string because the only thing that changes now is where in the musical alphabet we start. So let's jump up to the second string, the B string, and try this same thing. What we're going to see is the half steps haven't changed. B to C is still a half step, a natural half step. So we start B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. Here's our next natural half step, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B. So we still end on the same note that we started on, go from a B to a B. We just started at a different place within the scale. But essentially, the chromatic scale is kind of one scale that can start in 12 different places. I am going to do a companion video to this video where I do the chromatic scales up and down each of the strings at a slow, medium, and a fast tempo to a metronome so you can play along and find out where you're at within this process. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave me a comment. If you didn't leave me a comment, I'd love to be able to improve how I share this information with you as well. Have a great day. Take care.